Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September meeting of the Wilmot Township Committee of Adjustment. My name is Wayne Roth, and I'm chair of this committee, and I need to apologize to everyone for the delay in this meeting. As we all know, we are in trying and difficult times, and oftentimes glitches like this happen. And again, I apologize for the delay and hope that it did not cause any inconvenience for anyone. I'd like to read now the land acknowledgement for the Township of Wilmot. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee and the Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between the indigenous nations before Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and to Mother Earth. We should only take what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. Thank you. I'd like to introduce members of our committee to you. In no particular order, we have Mr. Steve Miller and Mr. Peter Rowe, who are members of the committee. Our staff this evening is Mr. Andrew Martin, who is the manager of planning for the Township of Wilmot and the township's EDO. Also in the planner for the township, Mr. Cameron Miller, who will be introducing all of our applications. And I'd also like to thank Carl for being our Zoom host this evening. We are an independent body appointed by Wilmot Township Council, and we have the power to make minor changes to existing zoning regulations and to approve some changes to existing non-conforming uses, as well as to give consent. Each applicant will be notified in writing of the decision of this committee within 10 days, and with that decision will be instructions on how it can be appealed. And a decision made by this committee can be made to the local planning appeal board, and they will hold a meeting and make a final and binding decision. If a decision on a minor variance or consent is not appealed, it will become final and binding after 20 days from the date of this meeting. As for the format of the meeting, and again, it's slightly different. We will have Mr. Miller introduce each application, and each applicant will then be invited to come forward if they wish to add any additional information to the comments that Mr. Miller made. There are no other members of the audience, so committee members will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant if that is appropriate, and then the committee will make their decision. Before we formally begin, is there any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for members of committee? Seeing none. I will then ask Mr. Miller to introduce the first application. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. The first application is minor variance application A06-20. The application is seeking to reduce the front yard setback of a single detached dwelling from 7.6 meters to approximately 6.2 meters. The property is currently developed with a single detached dwelling and an attached garage. The applicant's proposing a covered porch addition to what was an existing uncovered front porch. Through the construction of a covered front porch is therefore subject to the same setback as a main building, which is 7.6 meters, and the applicant seeking to reduce this to 6.2 meters. Given the fact that this does not reduce parking requirements on this property, and is also characteristic of surrounding neighborhoods, surrounding properties on Lewis Street. Many of the houses on Lewis Street are actually much closer to the road, so it is in keeping with the neighborhood. So staff are recommending that this application be approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Does the applicant or his or her representative wish to address committee on this matter?
So I've just I added them both as panelists here, the applicant and the owner. So if they wish to speak, they have the opportunity to do that now.
I don't see any response. So, Mr. Martin, should we just proceed then?
There we go.
If there's no, oh, here we go.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I don't have anything to add to the application, so I'm happy with the way it was presented and everything that's there. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I assume there's no one else that wishes to address committee. I don't see anyone. Okay, members of committee, do you have any comments or questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the submission, moved by Mr. Rowe and seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, would you introduce the next application?
Thank you, Mr. Roth. The next application is AO7/20, concerned 71 Steyr Road in New Hamburg. This application is seeking to reduce the side yard setback of a roof structure and its overhang from 1.5 meters and 1.2 meters to approximately 1.3 and 0.9 meters respectively. So following an inspection conducted by township building staff, they were made aware of a roof structure that was being constructed over a deck. It was found that the setbacks at that time were deficient, and in applying for a building permit, a variance was required before the building permit could be issued. There are sections in the township zoning bylaws that allows for eaves and architectural features to project into a required side yard setback, but this doesn't apply to posts or columns. So as shown on the attached sketch, the overhang as proposed extends past the limits of the house, and therefore a variance was required. Staff don't anticipate any compatibility issues with this, and is consistent with other setbacks, namely for accessory structures, and so are recommending that the application be approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Does the applicant wish to address committee on this matter?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm okay with my application was presented. I have no objection. Do you hear me?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
There's no one else that I'm aware of, so I'll turn it over to members of committee. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I would ask one of the committee members to bring forth a motion. Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Rowe. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Miller, would you introduce the last application, please?
Thank you, Mr. Roth. The last application is a consent application, BL3/20, concerning 2232 Nassica Road. This application is seeking to sever approximately 0.2 hectares from the subject property to create a new single detached residential lot. So this property was created by severance in 2005. At that time, a hydrogeological study was conducted and determined that a minimum lot size of 0.4 hectares was necessary to not have any impact on surrounding wells. So a site-specific bylaw was put in place that established that minimum lot size area up from the usual 0.2 hectares within Zone 2. So as such, this property is also subject to a zone change application, 06/20, which seeks to reduce this area requirement to 0.2 hectares. A public meeting was held on August 24th, at which time a subsequent report will be prepared to council on September 14th, 2020, where they'll come forward with a recommendation. So before any decision is made on a zone change, it would be premature to make any decision on a severance application at this point. So staff are recommending that the application be deferred and brought forward to the October meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Does the applicant wish to add anything to Mr. Miller's comments? Do we have a different participant here, Mr. Martin?
The applicant is now here. Yep.
Yeah, everybody can hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't got much to add. I think that's fine. I guess we'll get more into detail on September 14th. Just want to say we believe it's consistent with the lot sizes in the area and the surrounding neighbors. And the hydrogeological study we have done and the recommendation from the region of Waterloo confirms a 0.2 hectare lot possible without any interference with shallow groundwater. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. There's no one else, so I'll turn it over to members of the committee. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, would someone bring forth the motion that we defer this to the October meeting? Moved by Mr. Rowe, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The last part of the meeting, we need to approve the minutes of our last meeting. So could I have a motion to have those minutes approved? Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Rowe. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. I don't believe there are any announcements or new business to be brought forward. So to Mr. Martin, you will be informing us as to the date for obviously for the next meeting. And we will hope that it goes just a wee tad smoother than it did tonight in terms of getting started on time. So you will do that?
Correct. Yeah, we will confirm the dates with people to. Sorry, Mr. Rowe, I think is trying to speak.
I just want to apologize to you all. I mean, especially to Wayne and Steve and well, all of you for not being ready to be online on time.
No, okay. Yeah, you're sort of breaking up there, Peter, but
I kind of
we got the gist of it. We got the gist of it. So, okay. Okay, thank you all, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much.